Somehow, in my experience, my association with the fastener industry, I'm Eric Dudas with FCH and the Fully Threaded podcast, everyone, by the way. Somehow, along the way, I've had the, dubious distinction of always doing these breakout sessions right before the free alcohol starts flowing. So normally, right at the end, everyone's rushing out. But this is a very special session. We have three very dignified dignitaries, let's call it that, in the fastener industry. And the young fastener professionals thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a few minutes to get to know them a little bit better, something a little bit beyond what they'll be presenting or they have presented during their various acceptance speeches.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. If you buy, sell, manufacture, import, distribute industrial fasteners, or if you just find yourself thinking about them quite a bit, well, this is the podcast for you, and it's probably a very good thing that you clicked in. Hey everybody, Eric Dudas here. This is the finale of the 2017 Fully Threaded season. We've got a kind of a different show lined up for you today. Normally Brian Musker's here with us. However, today he's recreating in the warmer climes of the southern hemisphere, from whence he was spawned. Most of you know that. Although he is an honorary lifetime Texan, he was reared in New Zealand and he went back to visit his family. They now reside down in Australia. So I thought it was a good time to showcase for you a panel discussion that we recorded back on October 17th of this year during the Las Vegas Fastener Show. And that is going to be the feature segment on this episode 123 of Fully Threaded Radio, which we're publishing on December 18th, 2017. This panel discussion was hosted by the Young Fastener Professionals. I'd like to thank in advance Baron Yarborough for inviting me to moderate the discussion, and it featured the 2016 Fastener Hall of Fame inductee, Bruce Wheeler from Star Stainless, and the 2017 Fastener Industry Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Bill Derry of Field Fastener. Rounding out the panel, it was Adam Pratt with Sherex, who was this year's Young Fastener Professional of the Year. It was quite a lineup. The event was pretty well attended, and if you saw it, you'll probably pull a few more jewels out of it, and if you weren't able to attend, I know you're going to find it very, very interesting. Mike McNulty also has the episode off, as does Carmen Vertullo, so I'll be filling in as best I can. When we come back after a short break, I'll let you know what happened with the Fastener Distributor Index last month. And to close out today's podcast, I'm going to dovetail off of the FDI and let you know a little bit more about leading indicators. Lots of you are familiar with ITR, the consultancy, the Bewley Brothers, and I did a little digging into what they use as leading indicators. I thought that might be a very good way to wrap up the podcast season. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. And Lindstrom. Lindstrom, by any measure. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio, 3Q, US-made fasteners, Buckeye Fasteners, Fastenal, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Mack Brooks Fastener Fair USA, ND Industries, The Worth Group, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. As always, your input and feedback is always welcome. You can get with us anytime at the email address ftr@fullythreaded.com, and we also participate in Twitter. Out there, the handle is Fully Threaded. Thanks once again for listening, everybody. This is going to be a little bit of a different kind of an episode, but I think you're going to enjoy it very much, and I think it's a great way to conclude the 2017 podcast season. We could not have done it without each and every one of you, so thanks. We'll take care of some business right now, and when we return, we'll hang a few ornaments and put the tinsel on this one. It's Fully Threaded.
Coming to you across the vast audio radiance of the internet, it's the voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. Fully Threaded Radio.
What makes Lindstrom a leading specialty fastener master distributor? For years, you've known Lindstrom as the premier name in metric fasteners, with an expanded product line that now includes the largest assortment of fasteners and components of any master distributor. Today, Lindstrom means much more than metric. At Lindstrom, we're focused on a single goal: to bring our distributors the perfect combination of convenience, flexibility, value, and choice, delivered by the most experienced sales team in the industry. For inch or metric fasteners, standard or special, in any finish, all packed to your requirements, turn to Lindstrom, where we have what you need and deliver it the way you want. To learn more about Lindstrom and our expanded brand of value-added products and services, visit LindstromFastener.com or call a sales representative at 1-800-572-5550. Lindstrom, by any measure.
When top quality and outstanding service are at the top of your list in fastener suppliers, turn to Stelfast. Since 1976, Stelfast has grown to become an industry-leading importer and manufacturer of the highest quality industrial fasteners, specialty items, and automotive parts. Our array of facilities across North America and in Asia, along with full quality control labs and ISO 9001-2008 certifications, ensure the highest quality parts, and at Stelfast, they're delivered with undisputed service excellence. We're family-run and dedicated to your success. Our customers have come to depend on the expertise of our staff and the quality of our products. We also offer a wide range of secondary services to meet some of the toughest requirements you might have. Contact Stelfast today through our website at www.stelfast.com and put us to work for you. Stelfast. Service you deserve, people you trust.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Unlike other software companies, with InSequel, you purchase your software once. There will never be a paid upgrade. If you need assistance with anything, InSequel is there to help. When you call, you will always speak with a real person offering you quick and knowledgeable answers to your questions. Can your current provider say this? Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. So why settle? Call InSequel Software at 877-446-9775 or visit www.inxsql.com.
I don't have time to look for the best price for a socket head cap screw zinc plated with a patch.
Solution Man can. Let me handle all of your secondary processes, and I'll even ship the finished product. One price, one purchase order, one invoice, and one shipment equals one solution. Visit the Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
Solution Man, you're my primary source for secondary processes.
Good one.
This is Dick Ripley from Lindstrom, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio, the voice of the fastener industry.
Eric Dudas back with you on the Online Fastener Fun Factory, fully threaded. If you heard the last episode of the podcast, episode 122, the theme was self-driving cars. We had a little bit of fun with that. Of course, that's a trend that is unmistakably right on the horizon. It's going to impact the world, fastener and otherwise, in a major way in the next few years and beyond. I just had to share this with you. I saw an article right after we published that. It came out of the New York Times, November 29th, actually. Headline of this story, GM unveils its driverless cars aiming to lead the pack. Of course, they're all aiming to lead the pack. That's the name of the game. But GM's got one detail of their offering that I just I thought it was so appropriate. Too bad it didn't come out before our last episode, but I'll share it with you now. The story begins, for more than a year, General Motors has tantalized investors with plans to build its future around self-driving cars. It has regularly announced big investments and progress reports, but the company has kept its prototype vehicles largely under wraps until now. This is where it gets good. Listen to this. On Thursday, GM will demonstrate its growing fleet of computer-operated, battery-powered Chevrolet Bolts in San Francisco to dozens of investment analysts. And the story goes on. There's a lot of detail in this thing, but it's Chevrolet Bolts, folks. That's B as in boy, not V as in Victor, like the Volt, the electric car that a lot of you have seen out there. This is the Chevrolet Bolt. And maybe you'd heard about this. I hadn't. Sure, Brian knew about it. He didn't bring it to my attention. Thanks, Brian. Anyway, you might get a kick out of this. I'm sure you can find it in the archives. Author was Bill Vlasic. And again, that was November 29th, New York Times. As we'll hear during the panel discussion coming up, at least one of our panelists sees self-driving vehicles as a major, major impact on the economy and business in general. And it's not going to be too far down the road. Excuse the pun, but Chevrolet Bolt, who would have thought it? Okay, so moving over to the Fastener Distributor Index. This is usually done with much more fanfare by Mike McNulty, but I wanted to share it with those of you who listen to the podcast to get that monthly reading. The seasonally adjusted FDI for November 2017 was 56.9, moderating versus October's strong 62.2 reading, but remaining well into expansionary territory overall. So we had a little bit of a dip in the number. Again, in November it was 56.9, but we're still well into expansionary territory, everybody. Those of you who participate in the FDI survey receive the report. Several associations out there share that with their members as well. It's widely accessible. If you want more information about the Fastener Distributor Index, get out to the website, which is www.fdisurvey.com. I don't believe the reports themselves are out there, but the historical numbers, the readings are out there. There's some extra info as well. And if you're a North American fastener distributor, by all rights, you should be participating in the survey. So why don't you just do that? We'll shoot out the report for you. And to those of you who do that on a monthly basis, thank you so much. It really keeps things running for us. And I think the entire industry benefits on that. As I mentioned ahead of the break, stay tuned after the panel discussion segment that we're going to play here momentarily. I'm going to talk a little bit about leading indicators. And although ITR does not mention the FDI, I'm sure you'll find what they do use to be pretty interesting. You might want to apply that to your own business. And who knows, maybe ITR will pick up the FDI one of these days. And just before we move to our panel discussion feature segment today, I'll take an opportunity to remind you, everybody, that Fully Threaded Radio is the voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. FCH is a giant online resource that everyone in the fastener industry is welcome and encouraged to use. It's an online database. There's well over 1.5 million line items out there at this point. It fluctuates every day, but you're welcome to get out there and use the database anytime you need to find a hard-to-find part or something that you're just looking for. Maybe you need a new vendor, your parts are on the water, whatever the case might be. FastenersClearinghouse.com is the website for that. If you are looking to find new channels or new buyers for the parts you carry, you need to be on the network as well. We'd be glad to talk to you about that. All our contact is on the website. Again, that's www.FastenersClearinghouse.com. Fasteners has an S. This time we'll say the S is for Season's Greetings, even though we vastly prefer Merry Christmas. Try not to stay too seasonal on the podcast because we realize that a lot of you listen on a delayed basis, but we're living through the Christmas season right now, and I tell you, it's a little bit weird here in the Sonoran Desert to be celebrating Christmas when you're a Midwest boy, but that's what I've been doing for the last many years now, and I like it just fine. Anyway, I guess it's a little less weird than what Brian's doing. I think they're all probably frolicking around on some beach wearing Speedos, so that'd be even more weird for Christmas, but wherever you might be, I hope you're winding down the year on an up note. And speaking of up notes, why don't we segue into today's feature segment, which is this panel discussion, which was produced by the Young Fastener Professionals at this year's Vegas Fastener Show. It's about 40 minutes long. We'll play it in 2 sections, give you a little intermission. Once again, it was a pretty well-attended event, but we're very glad to have it recorded to share with the wider fastener industry now.
Somehow, in my experience, my association with the fastener industry, I'm Eric Dudas with FCH and the Fully Threaded podcast, everyone, by the way. Somehow, along the way, I've had the, dubious distinction of always doing these breakout sessions right before the free alcohol starts flowing. So normally, right at the end, everyone's rushing out. But this is a very special session. We have 3 very dignified dignitaries, let's call it that, in the fastener industry. And the Young Fastener Professionals thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a few minutes to get to know them a little bit better, something a little bit beyond what they'll be presenting or they have presented during their various acceptance speeches. And so I'll introduce the 2016 Fastener Industry Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Bruce Wheeler of Star Stainless. And Mr. Adam Pratt of Sherex Fastening Solutions. He's the Young Fastener Professional of the Year 2017 and this year's Fastener Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Bill Derry. Adam and Bill will both be joining us at the center tomorrow. Is it 3:30? I believe it's 3:30, 3 or 3:30, but we'll all be out there, and the official award presentations of the Hall of Fame and the Young Fastener Professional of the Year will take place then. I hope you can all join us. There will be a pretty large crowd, I think, gentlemen. It was great watching you give your speech last year, Bruce. Since we only have 45 minutes, and this is a lot, these guys could each talk easily for 45 minutes. I asked them to start with just a couple-minute bio, and we'll get things kicked off with them. We had scheduled an intensive preparation session before this meeting, So we'll get right started, and I'll ask Bruce, why don't you kick this off and let us know a little bit about you, as if we didn't know.
One thing I notice is we're all sitting here with our hands folded, awaiting what questions might come our way. But that's the fun part about this. My name is Bruce Wheeler. I'm the chairman of Star Stainless Screw Company. I began my career shortly after the dinosaurs stopped roaming, about 45 years ago, in the early 1970s. Things were a lot different back then. We had no computers. We didn't even have fax machine at that point in time. I remember I was on a plane, and some guy said to me, "Hey, you can send a paper through a telephone?" And I'm going like, no way. And I get back, we check it out. Next thing you know, fax machines were in. But anyway, the industry has evolved immensely since then. I had the opportunity, over the years to work in every position in the business over these years, and gave me a real good hands-on, first-hand opportunity, to really understand things and evolve my ideas and business plans over time. That's pretty much it. I'll turn it over to Adam next.
My name's Adam Pratt. I am president and owner of Sherex Fastening Solutions. So I started in the industry unofficially at about 2 years old. But actually, it wasn't in the fastener industry. My father actually is a machinist, and he had converted our barn into a machine shop because he didn't get along well with others, and he wanted to be in a barn making parts. So I was his first employee. I graduated from chip spinner at about the age of 8 to drill press operator. But it was literally just the two of us, and he's still making parts to this day. But growing up in a small town in upstate New York, I wanted to do something outside of the one stoplight town that I grew up in. As great as childhood as I had, so went to university with grand aspirations to be an engineer, and after about 2 years of misery, I said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So I got an economics degree and needed to get a job after graduating, so landed at Sherex Industries at the time, and took over a small fastener division and as a product manager, and fast forward 17 years. I guess you'll get that story tomorrow, so I don't want to share too much.
I'm Bill Derry. I'm the chairman and CEO of Field Fastener. I got into the fastener industry in 1973, right out of college. I had the good fortune of working for a great company by the name of Camcar. I spent the first 2 years running machines, working in the factory, working in the administrative areas, went into sales and marketing, did some outside sales, and went into the Tap-Tight division in Belvedere as the product manager and then the manufacturing manager, and I ended up running that plant for a couple of years. Got to be the VP of Sales and Marketing, and then got fired from corporate America. That was an interesting learning experience. I went to work for Rockford Products for a couple of years, had some operational and sales and marketing responsibilities, and it was during that time my partner Jim and I bought Field Fastener. I intended to continue in corporate America, but after a couple of years I got a little disillusioned with that, and that's when I put it all aside and joined Field as a full-time job. So I've been involved in the distribution business for about 26 years. It's been a good run.
Thanks, gentlemen. Well, that kind of covers the basic bio stuff. Now we're going to try to delve a little bit deeper, as the title of the session states. I should also say this, that what I'd like to have you do, folks, is formulate a question or two that you might be thinking of, and we'll try to spend the last 10 minutes or so. We'll throw it out. These sessions, you never quite know how they're going to work. Sometimes the chemistry is really good. Sometimes there's some real good mojo flowing. You just don't know how they're going to go. But we'll see how it runs, and if so, we'll do that at the end. But, Bill, you recently had an appearance on our Fully Threaded podcast where you mentioned a lot about questions. I thought that was a very interesting comment that you had. You said it's something that all successful fastener people, especially young fastener professionals, should do, is learn how to ask correct questions and absorb the answers. Therefore, I'd like to take your advice, and each one of the panelists, as you're listening to your fellow panelists talk, I'd like each of you to formulate a question for one of your other panelists, which I'm going to throw at you a little bit. While you ponder that, we're going to now get into some of the specific questions. Bruce Wheeler, do you ever have a bad hair day? No, I'm going to ask something different.
I'm just happy to have hair.
What was a pivotal moment in your career? Where was one time in your career when you really said, geez, what do I do now? Or this is a make it or break it moment for me?
Make it or break it moment. Probably the financial collapse in 2007 into 2008 when business dropped 40% and the price level tanked in half. Well, not totally in half, but close. That was a pivotal moment.
How did you react to that?
Stressfully. Not a lot of sleep. You have to make decisions and carry yourself through.
Bill, I know you've had a few of those. What stands out in your mind? What was a pivotal moment?
Clearly, the pivotal moment was getting fired. I thought things were going pretty good. I mean, my career had been pretty good. I was having a lot of fun. I'd had some good promotional opportunities, and man, it was right out of the blue. And it was a great, humbling, learning experience. And after I got done blaming everybody around me, I looked at myself and said, there's probably a bunch of things I ought to be learning from this, and I did. And it was that. When I drove home that night, it was, just in case you're interested, it was January 20th, 1989. It was about 6:30. But I drove home that night and said, as soon as I can, I'm going to put myself in a position nobody will ever do this to me again. And eventually I did.
I guess one of the morals of that story is something like that happens, start by getting really pissed off. Sometimes good stuff comes out of that. Adam, you haven't had as lengthy a career, but you've had some ups and downs as well. What was a pivotal moment that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think I'd probably share two. The first one was my first day at Sherex. The owners at the time, Andrew Johnson and Kevin Scherf, they went out on a limb on a kid fresh out of college and said, we're going to offer him this job. And my start date was August 13th, 2001. And to this day, I'm thankful it wasn't a month later, because who knows what decisions could have been made. So I think just, for me, timing is a theme that I find often as a player in my career and in my life, of looking back and seeing when and how things happen. And, as much as you may want to, we strategize and we plan, but sometimes those things are out of our hands. So I'd say just when I started was one. And then the next was when I approached Andrew and Kevin for an equity opportunity. I mean, being 23 years old and going to two guys twice your age and saying, hey guys, I mean, this has been fun, but I'd like a piece of the pie. And that 6 months of discussion and negotiation and them not throwing me out the door saying, you arrogant little jerk, how could dare you ask for a piece of the company, So I'd say those were two key moments.
That's pretty interesting. And Bill, during your recent podcast appearance, you had given advice to young fastener professionals about taking your time to get to that corner office. So maybe you have something to discuss with Adam a little bit.
We'll talk later.
Sounds good.
Each of you, of course, is responsible for operating an organization or having a lot of input, and of course, culture is extremely important. Bruce, you've done a lot with STAR to put a certain type of culture in place. Please describe that a little bit, how it's worked for you at STAR, what you've done, and the significance of it for your operation.
Every company creates a culture, whether they try to create one or not. Sometimes it's self-created, but at STAR, we have an extremely unique culture. We try to promote internally from within as much as possible. We really look for our people to work together. We go out of our way with our people and go the extra mile with them in different situations, that come up. But the culture that we try to create is a culture of people working together, getting along together, all working, for the one common direction for the benefit of the company, benefit of the customers, benefit of themselves. And it's worked pretty good. I know we're a unique group of people, and we kind of march to our own drummer, but it works for us.
We're going to just pass that down the line. So, Adam, what are your thoughts on culture in your organization?
It's the most important thing that we do as an organization. It never ends. We've suffered from times of really poor culture, and a lot of that has had to do with misalignment of management. That's where I oftentimes want to say when you see an issue with a company, and a lot of times people want to blame the union or blame the employees, and I think you usually have to point the finger uphill at the top. And the importance of management, ownership, alignment around culture is critical for an organization. And we've had times, and I think we're in one right now, where everybody's aligned, everybody's on the ship, rowing in the same direction. And when you get that feeling, you feel like you can really conquer everything. You feel like there's no challenge that you can't overcome. And that's because it's not about egos. It's not about people's own agendas. It's about getting the job done and doing what you need to for the organization. And we have 6 culture principles. We talk about them regularly. And lots of, one-on-one instances. People call me out if I'm not behaving to our culture principles. And we're in a business of widgets, but it's people that make it happen.
Now, Bill, I was at your facility in McChesney Park, Illinois. That's a lot of fun to say, McChesney Park. But but it's not as fun as actually going to your facility now that you've revamped it, which was a couple of years back. Mm-hmm. But you could almost call it the Field Fastener and Athletic Club, right? So obviously you've got a kind of an angle there that I'm interested in. Please explain all that.
Well, I would say we also have a unique culture, and it didn't happen by accident. I think Bruce is he's dead on. Every company has a culture. Some of them are created by accident, but ours was purposeful. I think the culture is a summation of our mission statement, which is pretty simple. It's to have everyone who interacts with us love us. It's simple, even simple enough I understand it. We've got 6 core values, and those core values are reinforced with 30 fundamentals, we call them, which are learned behaviors that allow us to put into action our core values. And it's a combination of those things that create this unique culture. And I think Jim and I were very fortunate that when we acquired Field, it was 12 team members. And I had worked for a really good company and a really crummy one. I'd had some really good bosses and a couple bozos. And it allowed us to start very small and create by design the culture that we wanted to get. One of that's embracing the concepts of teamwork and working together and transparency and all of those, I would say, are really good things. Another point I would make about culture, though, is when we think about a favorable culture, it conjures up images of a favorable work environment and things like a fitness center and the great room and healthy snacks and flexibility in our work schedules. And those are all very positive things. But not everybody fits in every culture. And I think one of the things that Field works hard at is to make sure that as we add new team members, they need to fit our culture, and not everybody does. And I think the mistake some companies make is to say, geez, we try to create this positive work experience and a culture that people enjoy working in, and everybody's going to come into it and love it. And that's just not the case. We used to hire primarily for skills, and culture fit was secondary. That's not the case anymore. Our primary hiring criteria is, do they fit our culture? And then secondly, we have to make sure they have the appropriate job skills. So I think culture is the essence of what our company's all about.
Doesn't get much more important than that. I'm going to change gears on you guys a little bit, and here's where all of our pre-meeting prep comes in, I think. Bruce, if there's one thing, this is a little personal now, but if there's one thing about you that most people out in the audience wouldn't know that you'd like to share, that might surprise some people, but goes into actually what makes you Bruce Wheeler, what would be an example of that? And if you don't like that one, if you could be a tree, what kind would you be?
A long-living tree. One thing people don't know about me that makes me me. Everyone knows me. No, I really don't have one thing that I can throw at you like that. I wouldn't even know how to respond to that one, Eric.
You know what's coming next, Adam? I could tell these guys really think I could see wheels spinning.
So some of you may know, but my guilty obsession is I'm a giant jam band fan. So some of the Sherex team knows, but yeah. I generally make it a rule to get to 2 to 3 Fish shows every summer.
You must be happy they're back.
It was a great run at Madison Square Garden this summer. My wife only let me catch 2 shows, so because she despises them.
What do you say, Bill?
That really is a tough question. Being around this industry for as long as I have, people know me inside and out. But I would say one thing people probably don't know, that I am really quite introverted in a group. I'm really uncomfortable walking around trying to create conversation. That I have to force myself out of my comfort zone to do that. Now, a couple beers later, not so much.
We all knew it would come back to that eventually, right?
All right, I'll share a couple.
I was going to say, Bruce, now that you had a chance to think about that a little bit, just one example would be you're a little bit like the Great Gatsby of the industry, aren't you? And you do a hell of a job lining up some great music, so you're kind of a music buff as well.
I love music, yes, and I play the guitar, which most people don't know. Another thing most people probably don't know is I grew up and graduated high school from a very small town in Montana. Small, like 50 people small. Northwestern Montana. Who asked that question? So do you know where a little town called Marion is? No. Do you know where Libby, Montana is? Yeah. Okay. Halfway between Kalispell and Libby. I think it's a population of about 300 now.
See, I knew we could dig something out. Somebody's asking Siri right now, Bruce, where it is, so we'll find out. Yeah, I'd be surprised. You never know. I mean, maybe the four of us, years ago, we all met up at a Grateful Dead concert around a drum circle or something. Weirder things have happened.
For a selection of hundreds of thousands of fasteners, check out your local Fastenal store or Fastenal.com. We can stock domestic or internationally sourced product locally and keep your bin stock filled for you at no additional expense. We are a 9001-2008 certified company that's made a huge investment in quality control so you don't have to. And if you can't find it on our shelf, we can make it for you at the quantity you need at one of our many manufacturing facilities. Learn more by contacting your local Fastenal store or visiting Fastenal.com today.
Whether you need a small or large number of fasteners, there is no reason why you should have to sacrifice quality or service for that matter. Volt Industrial Plastics takes great care with each and every order to ensure you receive a quality fastener in a timely and affordable manner. Our state-of-the-art production equipment allows us to produce any quantity you request quickly and efficiently. And with same-day shipping on nearly 1 million in-stock fasteners, we carry an inventory so you don't have to. Visit us online at voltplastics.com to find out more about our quality American-made products. Volt Industrial Plastics, manufacturer of the finest plastic fasteners in the world.
ND Industries has been solving customers' toughest problems through innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service since 1955. A family-owned business, ND Industries manufactures and applies fastener locking, bonding, sealing, masking, and assembling products. Their pre-application process makes fasteners ready to use at the point of assembly, resulting in reduced labor costs, time savings, and superior quality assurance. As a fully integrated company, ND handles all aspects of operations from formulating custom chemical compounds and coating fasteners to providing inline inspection, packaging, and delivery services. ND Industries serves the global market with 13 divisions in the continental U.S. and also facilities in Taiwan, China, and Turkey. Learn more about ND Industries at our website at www.ndindustries.com. ND Industries, innovative technologies, competitive pricing, and industry-leading service. Contact ND today.
Fastener Distributors. 3Q Inc. is the best kept secret for all of your fastener needs. 3Q is the premier sourcing solution for the fastener distribution market. 3Q offers stock and release programs on all special fastener products, from flat washers, lock nuts, cold form specials, to bolts and screws. Looking to add the highest quality line of self-drilling screws? Check out the pull-tight line of serrated self-drilling screws. They bite. Distributors who know of 3Q wonder how they ever operated before without the high level of service and quality support provided by 3Q and their staff. The number 3, the letter Q, 3Q Inc. Quality products, quality service, quality customers. Welcome to 3Q.
This is Kevin Chavis with Star Stainless Screw, and you are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Let's bring it back to the fastener industry, and this is the one that I asked you during the email when we prepped for this, the little prep that we did do, and that is challenges facing the fastener industry. We've talked a lot about things that might really impact the industry coming down the road, such as further consolidation. We've all seen a ton of consolidation over the last few years. Or it could be something along the lines of a disruptive technology like 3D printing, additive manufacturing, that so many people are speaking about now, and it's really coming on strong, folks, so be paying attention. Another one, possibly the Amazon effect. They're lighting Granger up right now in public, and a lot of people are taking notice of that. So if you've had a little bit of time to think about that, do you think that any of those influences on the industry are things we should be watching, or are there other things that come to mind? Bruce, what are your thoughts on that topic?
I think an Amazon could have an impact on our industry, certain segments of it. In industrial, like mill supply catalog type companies, a Granger can get right in there and fit that role. But, the typical distributor, I don't see, that's maybe supplying a company making coffee makers with a special screw going to an Amazon for it. But, your core commodity items could be bundled up into an Amazon type setting, and I think it could actually impact, the mill supply houses and like the catalog type companies if they were really to get their act together and go about it right.
So those are your thoughts on Amazon. Anything else that you see coming down the track that's going to be a major impact on our industry?
I think the consolidation is going to continue. Everybody wants to grow. It's a lot easier to buy another company than it is to go out and find new customers. But, there's going to reach a point in time when the consolidation reaches a certain point, the growth that these bigger companies are going to want to get. I just don't see where they're going to get it from. I don't see the fastener market from a consumption standpoint expanding, at the pace these larger companies want to grow. It's one thing if you're a $10 million company and, you want to grow 10%, you need to go out there and find $1 million worth of business. But, when you're a $150 million company and you need to go out and find $15 million worth of business, there's going to be a point in time where, that pot's going to go dry. And everyone's going to be fighting for the same big accounts. And you're just not going to get the growth that you hope to get. Like a company like Star, hell, I'd love to say we could grow 10% a year. It's impossible to do. It's never going to happen. The market isn't big enough to support that kind of growth. I mean, if I could grow $30, $40 million every year, that would be wonderful, but it's not going to happen. And I think as a lot of these companies continue to get their growth through consolidation, they're going to reach a point where they're going to hit this stage where they're just not going to be able to get the growth they want to get. And you can ride it out for a period of time, but at some point, the well is going to go dry. There's only so much business to be had.
Mr. Pratt, have you given it a little bit of thought? What's coming down the road for the fastener industry in your estimation?
I've noodled it around a little bit. So I think one thing that we talk about often is how technology is changing the companies that are using our products. When you no longer have a person sitting in the cockpit of a Peterbilt truck when it's barreling down the highway, when you no longer have a farmer sitting in a cab, when cars don't crash anymore because they're all autonomous, that really changes the way that these companies are going to manufacture their products. It's really going to change the types of fasteners that they're using. So as a manufacturer of fasteners, we're trying to imagine, all right, when these technological changes, and it's software and it's vision systems, it's radar, LiDAR, when those things change the way we move around the world, it's going to change the types of fasteners that they're using. And so how are we positioning ourselves from a product standpoint to meet the changing materials and changing demands that the manufacturers that our fasteners all go into when those materials change? And I don't think it's that far away.
How far?
I'd say by 2030, there will be a lot fewer people driving. That's my guess.
I'd concur, if not sooner. It's happening on the water, too, in a big way, which is really weird. Autonomous cargo boats. Mr. Derry, what are your thoughts on that topic?
Well, I think in the short run, Amazon, that effect is going to be significant. That the whole idea, you see what's going on in retail, people making stuff and putting it into buildings with people selling stuff and moving it around, that's going to have a huge impact at some point down the road on our industry, that the stuff that gets made and brought into distribution centers and moved around and then moved someplace else and moved around and eventually getting to the end user, that's a high-cost business model, and it's going to have to go away. I think while there'll always be some need for that, there's going to be a dramatic change in the way information is processed and how we use analytics in predicting demand. You know, right now we're all in a position where we don't get much good forecast information from our customer base, and so we have to respond to that unanticipated demand. I think artificial intelligence and the things that it's going to happen with information processing is going to give us a lot better handle on anticipating that demand, and the people that really crack the code at that are going to be different. I make my next comment, but I have to say I did spend some time in manufacturing, so I don't want anybody throwing rocks at me with my next comment, but I think our manufacturing base in this industry has got to get better at reducing lead time and shortening production quantities. That the product that we produce has to match the product as it's consumed way better than it does now. And while there's been a lot of progress in that adds to the high-cost business model that we operate in. And we've got to figure out ways in manufacturing, and with what's going on with robotics and quick change tooling and things like that, I think manufacturers, again, that crack the code are going to be significantly better than that. And the last thing I'll mention is, again, I worked at Camcar for a long time, and they were a great technology-based company. Where technology resides in this industry is going to change, and it's kind of spread around now. But, you know, in the old days, the manufacturers were the key people that had good technology on product development and manufacturing methods and so forth. They did the applications engineering, and manufacturing is moving around the world, and there is less emphasis on that, I think, in terms of becoming really good at the technology of the product. So I think there are going to be companies that specialize in developing and utilizing the technology in our industry, and where that resides in the industry is going to change.
Interesting comments on the AI and the multitude of data that we have swirling around. And of course, we're all generating data more so than we ever have. I know for my business with FCH, we have so much data. I've been reading lately about some possible ways that we can harness it and help the industry better by trying to understand it. And in my reading, one of the things that all the big data experts say over and over, it's not the data that you have, it's finding out what are the right questions that you should be throwing at that data. How do you pose questions that are actually going to be meaningful? It's daunting. I'm not saying I have the answer, but we're thinking a lot about it. Speaking of questions, I had mentioned earlier that I'm going to ask each one of you panelists, please, to prepare a question to fire at one of your fellow panelists. That's going to come up right after this one. Then, folks, we're going to throw it out to you. So hopefully you have a question or two. This is something also Bill and Bruce, we covered a little bit on the podcast when you made your appearances, but we're going to ask it for the benefit of the many young fastener professionals here in the audience. Bruce, if there's one piece of advice that you would give to a young fastener professional who someday would like to be up on this stage as a Hall of Famer or a YFP of the Year person, what would you tell them?
Grab as much information, mentorship that you possibly can get from the people that have been at this game, for quite some time. Be patient, don't expect to sit in the CEO's chair overnight. There's no magical wand you wave that gets you there overnight. Just stay true to your beliefs, stay diligent at what you do, don't give up, and get all the mentorship you possibly can, from the people that have been in the game for a while.
And YFP is turning into an organization to facilitate that kind of activity. So YFP, keep at it. Build yourself up. The industry needs you. Mr. Pratt.
Kind of following on what Bruce said, I think that the great thing about this industry is that everybody's really willing to lend a hand. You can go up to anybody and at an event and talk to them and learn from them. I've been incredibly fortunate to have been surrounded by customers and reps and other leaders in the industry that, I'd get in a room and I would just keep my ears open and listen and just try to learn. because there's a lot of wisdom in this industry, and they want to pass it on. They really do.
Bill, please expand when you do answer. I know you probably touched on this, but expand a little bit on what you were saying previously about the asking the right questions and why you think that's so important.
Yeah, I was going to say that the simple comment I'd make would be a patient, hardworking sponge. The first comment I make tomorrow, as I reflect a little bit about my role in this industry, is one of the key ingredients is asking good questions and listening to the answers. If I was to point to one thing that has contributed to whatever level of success I've had, it would be that I was blessed with marginal intelligence. And what I had to do is supplement my lack of understanding with the ability to ask a lot of questions and listen to the answers. And that served me well in a sales role, because when you're dealing with customers and prospects, asking good probing questions with a genuine interest in learning from them, and then no kidding really listening to the answers, not thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to say, that simple process served me well. The ability to ask probing questions and listen to the answers, I think, is one of the keys. And we've all said something like that, but I added hardworking, that I think too many young people today think hardworking is 7.5 hours. And I am not somebody that, we're not looking for people that want to get married to their job and work 12 hours a day. But people, if there's a something going on with your children and you need to only work 7 hours that day and get home and be with your family, that's where the priority ought to be. But if the job demands 12 hours on certain days, you have to be willing to do that too. So the ability to put your nose to the grindstone and stay with it, I think, is something that's one of the keys to success too.
Plus at least 45 minutes a week in the squat rack, right?
At least that.
Yeah. I was figuring. Thanks, guys. Well, since you're the guru on the panel of questions, why don't we lead off with you? And I'm sure you have formulated a question for one of your fellow panelists. What might that be?
All right, I'm going to start with Mr. Wheeler, and I have to give a short preface to my question that Bruce and I have been great associates in the industry for a long time, but it wasn't always that way. It was not always that way. So, Bruce, I got to ask, why didn't you like me at first?
You really want me to answer this?
No, I don't. I have a second question, but
well, no, I'm going to answer that first one. You were pompous.
And this was after I got fired, so I had already had the humility injection after I was pompous. That was my question.
No, Bill and I, we used to butt heads quite a bit. And I'll answer that question. My wife. One night we were having dinner, and she says to me, I don't know why you always bust Bill's chops all the time. And I said, well, in the beginning I didn't really like him, but I'm finding that it really irritates him. And when his neck gets all red going up, I know I really have him going. So now it's become more of a game. So anytime I could antagonize him and egg him on and needle him, I would do it. So my wife said to me, why do you do that to him? And I said, I don't know. It's just become a big game. She said, he's really not such a bad guy. And I said to her, come on. I said, one thing I don't understand. How does such a nice lady like Liza end up with a guy like Bill? And my wife said, that's because he's not really the way you're viewing him. So I said, well, let me cut this a little slack and see where it goes. So Bill came to our building one time, and I actually took a red tablecloth that my wife had for the dining room, and I rolled it out on the floor when he came in. But I told him he couldn't step on it, my wife would kill me. But, it started out extremely adversarial. Yes, it did. And it was a train wreck. It wasn't good for either one of us. It's much better now. Actually, it's pretty darn good now. I have a question for you, though, Bill. Oh, you have a second part.
I'll bet you. No, I had one for Adam, so.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, Adam, you obviously at your age, you have a responsibility to provide direction and leadership to people that are significantly older than you. What are some of the keys to gaining the respect of older employees?
I don't feel qualified to answer that question. I feel like we'd have to ask them, to be honest.
Okay.
That's why you are where you are.
Jake.
Bruce, fire away with your question for Bill.
Okay. So, Bill, being the chairman of Field, I'm curious, with your driving personality, how are you doing with relinquishing responsibility?
On a 10 scale...
Maybe I should have Adam answer this, too.
There's others in the... I'd say on a 10 scale, I'm doing about a 7. Jim became president about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I would say for the first 2 years, I probably did a 3 on a 10 scale because I was in the office every day. And I was well-intentioned, but I think I was screwing things up, that there was some confusion about who's really running the joint. So I have moved significantly back, further away from the business, not as actively involved in it, so that people understand that Jim's the president.
So you give it a 7 out of 10.
I'd say a 7 out of 10 now. But I'm getting there. I'm a 7 out of 10, but I'm trending towards a 9. In my opinion.
Adam, did you have a question for either your fellow panelists?
I do. It's the same question for both of you. I've heard stories, so I think everyone else should too. What's your best, or your worst, or your best travel story?
And while they think about that, folks, I'm going to interject here because we're going to wind down in about 10 minutes. And you guys stew on that question because we'll come right back to it. I'll give you a few minutes to think about it. Conjure up a few details, make them up if you have to. They don't have to. This has been the panel discussion that some said could never be pulled off. Why did they say that? Well, we can get into that at the Circle Bar later today after the reception, which I hope you'll all be attending. The young fastener professionals, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to participate in this. I don't know how I always stumble into these things, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. And Baron, thank you for inviting me. Bill, what's that favorite travel story that Adam is inquiring about? Tell us all about it.
Well, I'll just be brief. The first trip I made to China was a disaster. I ended up in a rat hole hotel in Shanghai, and we got lost, and a couple of the meals were a little south of perfect. So it was a very marginal experience, and it was a byproduct of my partner Jim saying there were some things going on with him that said I think I can't go to Asia for the next couple of years, so I got the short straw. So the whole idea of that experience was just not particularly favorable, and I'll just leave it at that.
Some of the traveling to Asia stories are the best this industry has to offer.
Yes, they are.
Bruce, how about you?
I'll give you my most embarrassing. It was the first trip I ever made, and I didn't take into consideration the date change. And I showed up at the wrong dates to the wrong places. And by the second day, everyone's calling around like, hey, weren't you supposed to be here yesterday? And on and on and on. And my whole trip just like unfolded into a disaster.
It happens. Let's throw it out to the audience now. Anybody who's got a question? And Mr. Butler, I got to walk all the way back there. We'd like to get you on mic just in case we want to use a snippet of this on the podcast.
The question regarding taking on new lines. The obvious is filling the need. What other aspects go into your decisions to taking on a new line, such as the washer line?
So for me, the key idea with that was how did the product line fit with inserts? And I know it's probably not logically evident on the surface why that would. But for me, it was there's a strategy there, which I'll say in a second. But the other was I found it was a lot of overlapping customers. So a lot of the customers that were buying blind rivet nuts also were looking into vibration resistant loosening fasteners, and so there was that overlap, so that the team, when they're out with customers, have more tricks in their toolkit. The other component of it for me was it had to strategically fit, and the washers of themselves may not, but some of the other products that Disc Lock had fit very well with with rivet nuts, with rivet nut studs, with clinch nuts, with clinch nut studs, clinch studs. So I would say you'll see that roll out over the next 3 years of what our intentions are. So we had a few things we needed to clean up to start and launch, but where we'll be in 3 years is the final point at which I saw the potential for those product lines to work together to provide that full fasten solution that would not vibrate loose.
Good afternoon. I'm Melissa from Field. My question is, finding good talent is very difficult when you talk to many suppliers around the world. What is your organization's doing to secure the best talents?
Like I mentioned earlier, we really try to train from within the organization and promote up. And for the gross majority of the time, we have no problem in doing this. If you look back over the years, it's very rare that I hire from outside of our industry or from other companies outside of ourselves. We really look at a very long-term plan, and we put the time into the people, we train them, we teach them, and we try to just promote them right up through the organization. We really don't struggle looking for talent.
For Sherex, it really starts at the local universities. I would say, what do we have, 10 to 12 University at Buffalo graduates that started as interns, and then once they graduated, we hired them on full time. Likewise, we've got a couple of people that have joined the company from the industry, but for the most part, we hire locally. We're very active at the university level. Matt and Jake and Toby and Tom have all been to UB events doing recruitment. So it has to be a holistic approach. It can't be scattershot. So it's really those relationships that we're now trying to build in Ohio. With our Akron production facility, we're trying to get involved with University of Akron and some of the other technical institutes in that area to bring people in and train them from entry level on up.
We too have used interns on a limited basis to try to get some new talent into the place. I don't think Field has cracked the code on true innovative ways of recruiting new team members. I mentioned earlier that the cultural fit is really important. So I think while attracting new talent to the organization is important, I think of greater importance is retaining that you get. And I think that's a problem too many organizations have, that good people come and go. The other thing I think we do quite well is developing the skills of the good people that we do get, so that we promote and provide people with the opportunity to enhance their skills and grow in their jobs. We have had the good fortune, we've had a 19% average growth rate for 26 years, and that is really important to our culture, that as we develop and to try to attract and retain people to grow, if we are not growing at those kinds of rates, we can't provide upward mobility to people at the same rate. So that growth is an important part of our strategy. And once again, I enjoy disagreeing with Mr. Wheeler. He can be wrong about a lot of things. This is just one of many. I think it's important to balance. We really believe in promoting people from within. I think that's very important. But I think it's also important to bring in new talent from the outside at all the levels, so that we have people at the leadership level that came in at those levels. And I think it is good to bring in ideas from outside of our company and outside of our industry that can bring a fresh perspective. So there's not one right or wrong approach to that. They're just different ones. And ours tends to be that blended approach of people that develop skills and abilities internal to the organization and those that we bring in from outside.
Very good approach, Bill.
Adam with Field. My question is in terms of innovation. Driving innovation, I think, is becoming increasingly important to stay relevant in the industry. I'm just curious, to really any of you guys, what's been the most innovative thing you've done as a company, and where was that idea created, and how did it come to fruition?
I would say that everything that we've done from an innovation standpoint has been customer driven. So there's always been a problem that a customer's had that we've developed a solution for, that we then analyze within our organization and say, is there an opportunity for this to grow in other markets? with other customers. So without the problem, what is it? That's a solution, or problems are what's the mother of invention? Yeah, I'm screwing it up. Anyway, so it's whether it's the riv float, it was because a customer came to us and said we need a rivet nut with floating threads. Whether it was the new full hex line, it was because customers were having thread stripping with competitors' products because of some technical issues that I won't get into. Whether it's our partnership with our automation partner in Germany, there was a need for in-die systems to be able to install fasteners in die. So it's always voice of the customer influencing our product development and innovation process. So it's hard to pick just one.
And I would say Field does, again, an okay job of that. It's innovation is one of our core values. There's a renewed emphasis on it. I think there's a couple of examples of things I would describe as at least mildly innovative. A couple of years ago, several companies here are aware of it, and some involved. Field was involved in creating what is now known as the Global Supply Alliance. It's a group of distributors that work together in the international sourcing of some of our product, but it was a kind of an off-the-wall, out-of-the-box approach to leveraging our purchase. And a couple of years ago, we bought an engineering company that specializes in the design, testing, and validation of bolted joints. It's a separate company from Field, but we recognize as we want to continue to develop the technical competence of our company that developing engineers that specialize in fasteners is a very long and difficult road. And so we went out and acquired that technology, are enhancing it, and continue to bolt on acquisitions to that core business and engineering. I would say that's kind of outside of the scope of what's traditionally done in the fastener distribution business.
Then we're going to say Bruce Wheeler and Adam Pratt, Bill Derry, folks, that's going to put this one in the can. We'll talk to you at the reception and then at the Circle Bar. Thanks for coming.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. We have complete custom manufacturing capabilities in low carbon, medium carbon, and stainless steel materials, and our quality systems are registered to ISO standards. Our on-staff engineering department can assist you with product development and provide total technical support. Our knowledgeable sales team members offer superior customer service and are here to answer any questions you may have regarding our products. Having a hard time finding a part? Let our sourcing specialists do the work for you to locate those items. We offer competitive pricing with typically smaller minimums and shorter lead times. To find out more about Buckeye Fasteners, please call us at 800-437-1689 or on the web at buckeyefasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
In this economy, I need to cut cost and freight, or I'll lose my customer.
Solution Man Ken. The more you order, the more you'll save. With free freight on orders over $1,000. See the Solution Industries website for details at solutionind.com.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
You will meet over 2,000 fastener professionals from key manufacturing industries when you attend Fastener Fair USA, North America's only show for the entire fastener supply chain, taking place April 11th and 12th, 2018 in Cleveland, Ohio. Fastener Fair USA attracts manufacturers, distributors, suppliers, and end users from North America's fastest growing industries, such as automotive, aerospace, construction, equipment manufacturers, and many more. More than 200 companies from around the world world will exhibit at Fastener Fair USA 2018, showcasing the latest in industrial and construction fasteners, assembly and installation systems, manufacturing technology, and much more. Take advantage of the opportunity to grow your business with our high-level education and training taught by industry experts, including the Fastener Training Institute, who will be participating in the inaugural show, offering product and technical training. Connect with customers and peers on the show floor and after hours at our welcome reception on April 11th at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is truly something for everyone who's part of the fastener supply chain at Fastener Fair USA. To request information on exhibiting or visiting Fastener Fair USA, go to fastenerfair.com/USA or call show management at 866-899-4728. We'll see you at Fastener Fair USA 2018 in the heart of America's manufacturing region, April 11th and 12th at Huntington Convention Center, Cleveland, Ohio.
Hi, this is Hugh Hewitt for the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund, www.semperfifund.org. Over the past 7 years, twice a year, the wonderful people who operate the Semper Fi Fund and many amazing Marines who have been the beneficiaries of the charities that have supported the Semper Fi Fund, including many thousands of individual donors, have come into my radio studio to tell their amazing stories of serving their country, of being wounded, and how the Semper Fi Fund has helped them make that transition back to recovery. Unfortunately, Bethesda and Walter Reed are full again. More and more men and women are coming back from the war injured, sometimes awfully so. We need the Semper Fi Fund to be there for these Marines and those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who served alongside of them. Please consider a gift to the Semper Fi Fund. Very low overhead, extraordinary capacity to get money where it needs to get in a hurry, and great management, including some of the senior Marines who've ever served under the flag. When you're looking for something to do that will make an impact, please check out the Semper Fi Fund. That's www.semperfifund.org, www.semperfifund.org.
This is Gary Plipnick from Fastenal. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, how about that for shedding some perfect light on the fastener industry? Hey everybody, Eric Dudas with you, back to put the star at the top of this one, closing out another episode of Fully Threaded Radio, as well as the podcast season. Thanks to all of you who have been with us for this season and previous ones. Thanks also to Baron Yarbrough of Spring Bolt and Nut down there in Houston. Baron's on the board of the Young Fastener Professionals. He had a lot to do with putting that panel together. He got me involved, and he also provided recording services, so couldn't have done it without you, Baron. Thanks also to our panelists. They were of Star Stainless, Bruce Wheeler; from Field Fastener, Bill Derry; and of Sherex Fastening Systems, Adam Pratt. It was good to hear the different perspectives each of our panelists offered. There was a little good-natured ribbing, which was fun to hear, but also, I think, some analysis, as seen by some of the greats in this business. And it's always an honor to be able to share this type of thing with you out there in the fastener industry. Our partners in doing that, I might add, are our list of great sponsors. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Stelfast. For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast. And Lindstrom. Lindstrom, by any measure. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by 3Q, USA-made fasteners, Buckeye Fasteners, Fastenal, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Mack Brooks Fastener Fair USA, ND Industries, The Worth Group, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. It's good to have all of you with us, folks, and we look forward to your feedback, comments, questions, and so forth. Get with us anytime. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com, and on Twitter, the handle is fullythreaded. Hey, I mentioned at the top of the show that as we close this one down, I was going to share with you some information that I recently discovered as I was thumbing through a book called Prosperity in the Age of Decline. Now, this is by Alan and Brian Bewley, they of ITR Economics. That is a consulting company that has been used by the NFDA as well as a few other fastener associations, and there's some pretty sharp guys who prognosticate in the area of economics and economic trends. They support industries well outside the fastener industry too, but they do a pretty good service, I think, and a lot of people take them very seriously. Now, this book was written in 2014, and throughout the book, they describe what they believe is a coming economic downturn, a pretty severe one. Don't worry, it isn't happening till 2030. Have a nice Christmas and don't be too depressed about it, although probably a word to the wise is you have to start thinking about these things. And regardless of whether or not you buy into their particular theory or not, if you're a business person or if you're involved with business, which 99% of you are, then you have a vested interest in keeping abreast of what's going on or what you think is going on. And therefore, leading indicators should be of interest to you. So we talk a lot about the Fastener Distributor Index, the FDI, on the podcast. And I mentioned that there are some leading indicators outlined in this book, Prosperity in the Age of Decline. And I want to share those with you right now. This is beginning on page 134 of that book. And I'll just read them out the way that they have them listed here because I think it's kind of interesting. You might want to go on your own and take a look at these, plug them into your own formulas. Number one is corporate bond prices. That's the year-over-year rate of change. Now, each one of these categories, the way they have it in this book, they describe the lead time and also sources for getting this data. In this case, they're saying that you can go to Moody's or Bloomberg and find this information pretty easily, and that it's usually about a 10-month indicator. Number two is the ITR leading indicator. Now, this is a proprietary indicator that was developed by Brian Bewley back in the 80s. It's been updated subsequently, but it's a composite index, and they have a lot of faith in it. Well, this one, you have to basically go through ITR to get, and they think that it's about a 9 to 12 month leader. Number three is one that we all hear about when we talk about the FDI, and that is the Institute for Supply Management's Purchase Managers Index. Sometimes they just call this one the ISM. Pretty well known. That's available all over the place. You can get it at the ISM website. Number four, the U.S. Leading Indicator. Now, this was originally a government indicator, and now it's owned by a private concern called the Conference Board. They're saying that this is a 13-month indicator on highs and a 10-month on lows. You can get the information for that at the Conference Board's website, which is conference-board.org. Number five, orders versus inventory levels. That's an 11-month indicator. That's put out by the U.S. Department of Commerce. Number six, widely available information. It's the S&P 500 index. Most of you know that's a pretty broad-based stock market composite. Number seven, housing starts. This one's a little bit of a tighter barometer, 8 to 6 months, and you can get that information through the U.S. Census Bureau. And finally, retail sales, specifically the rate of change in retail sales. That's a pretty tight one. That's 2 to 3 months, and that's also available through the U.S. Census Bureau. So those are the primary leading indicators used by ITR when they're devising their macroeconomic leading indicator system. And hopefully there's a few ideas for you if one of your plans for 2018 is to do a better job of anticipating what's coming down the pike. Of course, for me, that tends to fall into the spectrum of magic. As regular fully threaded listeners know, that's one thing that we always do on the podcast is ask people what they expect. And, of course, there are ideas over the years that have been proffered that range all across the board. So, well, that's part of the fun. And speaking of fun, hopefully you're going to have a lot of it this Christmas season, or if you celebrate some other holiday at the end of the year, doing whatever it is that you do. As for the fully threaded team, we're all in place to do that, splayed out across various corners of the world. And we want you to know that we very much appreciate your support, your listenership, sponsorship in some cases. Those of you who use FCH, we truly do appreciate your patronage. Well, that's going to wrap up episode 123 of Fully Threaded Radio and also the 2017 podcast season. And we wish you all an extremely happy, safe, Merry Christmas, or whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next year.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.